Well, good afternoon, currency traders. Joe with you here for a recap. It's Thursday, December 19th. You guys know this drill, so let's get into it. Let's see what we can find when it comes to the news out there. Take a look at some stuff technically, and let's share some trades if I have some.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's break down what happened today.
Moving into our market analysis, we did get a little bit of reaction, mostly from more news specific to bank rates. Been kind of the fun thing lately. Bank of England keeps rates unchanged, and it was expected. Bank of Japan keeps rates unchanged, and it was unexpected. Japan was expected to raise interest rates, and they had an 8-1 vote saying, nah, let's just keep it the same. And the yen got smushed. The Bank of England, on the other hand, did pretty good. It rolled over a little bit towards the end. We'll take a look at it, as their vote was a little tight, and I think it caused a little bit of worry. U.S. employment claims lower, uptick in the GDP revision, a couple of good signs showing that the economy is still strong. So let's take a look at how we finished here. The yen, big loser, down about 1.77%. U.S. flat, franc bounced up a little bit, and the pound, like I said, it started off pretty strong. It's a very strong currency. It looks good, but then it just kind of rolled over at the end. CAD up, and the Aussie and the New Zealand all up as well after oversold bounce. They continue to sell off. What else continues to sell off? Crypto. Crypto had another push to the downside. Being that volatile, you couldn't imagine people not pulling some money out of it. But look at that. The S&P World Index completely flat, gold flat, just basically in the crypto. Litecoin leading the way, almost down 10%, 6.4 on Ethereum. Bitcoin almost at 9%. Now, folks, when I was building this class, these things were still really moving all over the place, but they were primarily down, like pretty far down. So those numbers might have changed. So overall, our outlook is just going to kind of stay. Well, it has to stay glass kind of half empty here. It's got to be ominous after yesterday's candle on the S&P. Below the 20, below the 50, the slope, the 2050 slope, it fell so fast. These slopes are hard trying to catch up. A couple things that I did like about this is the support level that we did find, and we're actually kind of showing it, or I should say we landed on it again today. We have it right there. So this is the big candle, good volume, moved down, the volatility spiked up, but we're kind of resting on this area. And it's interesting how we have hit these points since we started here back in the end of summer. But nonetheless, it's been a super strong ride, and even with this corrective action, these markets are still up quite a bit for the end of the year. So we'll see if this changes. I'd like to give it something a little bit more negative, but and it can easily slide. The Dow, if you look at the Dow chart, it's a lot worse. It's a lot further down. And the Qs is about exactly where the SPY is. So it was just a big flush out in my mind. One day, massive reaction. Everybody hit the sell button. And that's it. We'll see. We'll see if that goes any further. So let's take a look at some of the economic news. These are some of the numbers that have been driving the markets, obviously. We had our FOMC press conference and statement. You could see everything was in as expected, quarter point cut. And then overnight, Japanese yen came in and they kept it flat. It's supposed to increase by 0.25% and didn't. They kept it in line. And then here's our last one. The Bank of England comes out and says, hey, here we're going to keep it in line. Everything looks good. Everything popped up. And I noticed that the pound has been strong for some time. But I think this is what threw people off a little bit. This 2-7 was the expected vote. Everyone was going to say, hey, let's just keep it unchanged. But we had somebody slide over to the other side there. And I mean, wow, is that enough? I don't know. On clarity moving forward with their policy. Well, nonetheless, let's just go out and take a look at the currencies individually and see where that kind of left us. So first off, obviously going to start with the Japanese yen here. And here's that fall that just rolled right over. And it was kind of already on its way down. It had a pretty good relief bounce, a little bit higher than I thought it would. But this rollover kind of confirms it. I'm just going to put it right back down to the lower end there. I'm going to give it a -2. I did see a little bit of a floor here. And the SAR did flip. But this is not as steep of a move to the downside as this last couple of candles have shown. So I'm just going to keep it at a -2, but it is definitely showing a little bit more weakness. Not as much as some of the risk-on currencies, but it is looking worse. So let's get into the dollar. Dollar continues to show some strength. A little bit of a spike or shot up here, and then it just consolidated. It just seems to be climbing higher and higher and higher. Definitely something to pair with anything else as being something that's just going to outperform. I'm going to keep it up at the +3. Going over to the franc here. The franc had a nice relief rally. Climbed up a little bit here, pulled the RSI. I like that. A little bit of a smiley face going on the moving average, so I can't really lean too... I can't really give it a trend up or down just by that, but I do like the SAR flip and the continuation there. So I'm going to keep the franc at a +2. Euro, to me, is flat. I have to argue it maybe a 0 or +1, but it's more flat, but it is showing that it wants to climb. We have that flip on the SAR. You can see that they flip-flop quite a bit. A nice meandering, slightly tilted moving average, and just a sideways RSI. So I'm going to keep it a +1 because it just seems to be slow and steady. The pound was one of my favorites as far as strength, and I loved it. You guys can see this thing. Nice little pullback here, breaks out of a base, and it was looking great, and then it flipped. Once again, they didn't do anything to the rate policy change. I believe there's a little worry about the inconsistency when it comes to, hey, what can you expect down the road? A little bit of a relief, a little bit of a pullover, but it is at a support if you guys are playing on the momentum charts, and it still looks pretty good overall. It's just taking a little bit of a breather. So I got to bump it down to a -1 because it flipped a SAR here, and this dropped here on the RSI. But this is still a very strong moving average, and I think in the long run, Great British Pound is still going to be one of my stronger currencies. Let's go to the CAD. Here's our move from the CAD today. Good move on the RSI, kind of pushing this moving average higher. This was a good price action move because it broke a few places. Let's get my pin out and I'll show you here. So we're back up to some of these levels. Right, we're above this resistance. That was a pretty good push to get above that. We did come off of a slightly higher low there, so we're seeing a little bit of an emergence in the Canadian dollar. It looks a little extended here, and it could flip or at least slow down. But I'm going to still keep this glass half full. It's still a +2. I just like this move here and this real good price action, even though this moving average really hasn't flipped yet. I think it'll catch up. So let's get to the risk-off currencies, or the ones that I've been looking to short against, right? This is the Aussie. A little bit stronger of a move today. It looks like it's ready to flip over. This is an oversold bounce, kind of what I expected. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it basically at a -1 because it is a little bit higher. This is negative here, flip there, and then this RSI, I like it on the bear side because it looks like it wants to roll over at this 50, but the move up, I had to give it its due when it came to a little bit of a reversal there, but it's still negative. And then the yen, and I think this one will be one we're going to look at today with maybe a couple things. We could look at the yen as well. Here's the Kiwi. Then what we like with the Kiwi here is it just rolling over. It's already -3 or -2. It looks like it wants to go further. I just really like where it's at, and I think it might be one to check it out. Real quick, let's jump through the cryptos. You can see these cryptos are just all -3s. You know what? I'm not. The velocity score is definitely -3, but let's take a look at the dailies on these just to put things in a little bit more perspective. Bitcoin has been doing pretty good and it's hanging in there. So big rollover over the last couple of days. Take a look at Bitcoin Cash. These are a little bit different. I think Bitcoin is definitely the outperformer out of all of them because these have been selling off for a little while. These are a few days before then it just rolled over with everything else. Ethereum sold off a little bit, tried to gain. And then Litecoin, already had a big sell-off. So the only one that's really hanging in there is Bitcoin. But boy, if you take a look at all these on the velocity scores, it's a different little animal. So I'm just going to keep all those things at -3 for now. So this is what it looks like, folks, when you kind of stack it all together. Strength still over there on the US dollar side. The pound, I believe, will get stronger again. I don't know, maybe it won't, but it's just not weak enough for me to try to short against. So I'm going to focus on the Aussie, New Zealand, and I'm going to pair that against the US dollar. You can also start putting the yen in there, guy, if you guys want to take a look at something like that. So let's go out and take a look at some of the trades that we could possibly be looking at for now. And definitely going to have to start with the dollar side of things. So here's the US Canadian. I love this pairing, and the reason why is just because the CAD's pretty strong as well, and so it's giving me this nice little pullback. If the CAD could show a little bit of weakness, but I don't know if it will, this might continue, and we could see that US kind of shoot up. So get kind of a nice bull pullback entry point on this. Let's take a look at the Aussie US dollar, and this is doing exactly what I wanted it to do. It's rolling over, nice little bear rally. So I've been looking at something like this as well. Let's take a look at the Kiwi to see if it's further along. Yeah, so they're very similar. Just depends. Do you want to play the low base breakdown, or do you want to look for something more of a bear rally that is rolling over to kind of a bearish move to the downside? So they both look good here. It's almost a coin flip if you want to set them both up and see what gets hit first. But those two I'll probably look at the most. I have that US CAD on my radar, but I'm not going to get too into it unless I see the CAD get a lot weaker. So that's about all I got for today. There are trades out there, and you just got to look for them, and they don't last very long unless you kind of stick with some of these pairings. So risk off continues. The US dollar continues to show the most strength out there. I like to see the pound get stronger. We'll keep an eye on it, see if it does, because that yen might be something we could use against it. Crypto continues to stay in its correction. It's volatile. It's fun to watch. But make sure you just play relative strength and weakness, proper position sizing as always. All right, folks, thanks for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.